All right, I'm going to go ahead and kick our presentation off. If we haven't met yet, my name is Paige Buttles here at Batavia High School. I get to work as our college and career counselor. I just want to welcome everyone here to College Night. I'm sure this will be very insightful and informative with our wonderful panel that we are hosting here today. They represent 5 different colleges or institutions, and they all have a unique background. Between you and I, they are truthfully like a panel of rock stars. Really lucky to have them here today. They're kind of famous in the world of college admissions counseling. So that's just something you wouldn't know unless I told you, and I have to give them what's due. They're going to be bringing some unique and insightful perspectives on the college admissions process, and they're going to help our students and families to navigate higher education. And they're going to introduce themselves and their colleges here in just a moment. As you know, our session is going to cover a range of what we think of as essential topics that are going to help both students and parents navigate the college journey. We're going to talk about how to find a college that is a right fit for you, how to navigate college fairs as well as campus visits, talking about college applications, financial aid, how to explore scholarships and test optional policies, which is quite a bit. So we're going to kind of just scratch the surface on each of these things, as well as some of the questions that were written in. I know that tonight will equip many of you with the knowledge as well as the confidence that you need to make informed decisions about the students' futures. Some of this you may already know, and I hope that helps boost your confidence as you explore the college process. And I'm sure we're all going to walk away with new information today as well. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to our college panelists as we kick off this evening. And thank you all for coming tonight and for learning with us together. So on this next slide here, we have our college reps. So we're just going to go in order as they introduce themselves, their college, and a little bit about their college institution before we dive into the topics. So Mary, would you introduce yourself first?
Sure. My name is Mary Ward. I'm Assistant Director of Admission for Purdue University. I'm actually a regional rep, so I live and work here in the Chicagoland area. So I am the point person for you for Purdue University. So Purdue is the land-grant public institution for the state of Indiana. We're located in West Lafayette, Indiana, which is 2.5 hours from Chicago and an hour from Indianapolis. However, we just welcomed our first freshman class to Indianapolis. So we have a new location also available for students to consider in Indianapolis. If you're interested in more of an urban type of setting, it's still part of Purdue. So we have West Lafayette and then our location in Indianapolis. Not as many majors there yet, but we are planning to grow those programs. So as far as West Lafayette, we are a big campus. We have about 40,000 undergrad students. I'd like to say we're a big campus with all those perks of a big university, but still a small feeling. Average classroom size once you get into your major is going to be about 35 students, and student to faculty ratio is 14:1. We have at least one student from every single state in the US and 125 countries, so very diverse campus as well. As far as majors, we have over 200 majors and 11 colleges, and we are direct admit for all of our programs. Most popular majors are going to be engineering. We are a top 10 engineering program in the country. Neil Armstrong is a Purdue graduate. We've actually graduated 27 astronauts from Purdue. Computer science, which is in our College of Science. It's not in our College of Engineering. Nursing, which is direct admit. Our flight program, we are the first institution to own and operate our own airport. So you actually can become a commercial pilot at Purdue. And then Daniel School of Business, which is ranked top 25 business school, also available for students to select. We have 2 professional schools, College of Pharmacy, College of Veterinary Medicine, and then we also have an undecided major if you're not sure what you want to major in. As far as applying and scholarships, there is only one way to apply to Purdue, and that is through the Common Application. You want to submit it by November 1st, and that is our early action deadline that will get you reviewed for admission and for scholarships. So one application and you're done. We do offer other scholarships, departmental scholarships. So based on your college and major, there's opportunities to have other scholarships as well. Our tuition, something we're very proud of. Our tuition has been frozen for 13 years. So that's something we're proud of. Currently, out-of-state tuition is about $28,800. Room and board is just over $12,000, but you're not required to live on our campus. It is optional for all students. So even as a freshman, you don't have to live on campus. But if you choose to, then with tuition and room and board, it's going to be just over $41,000 before scholarships. Thanks.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Juwan Pollard, and I'm Associate Director of College Admissions for the University of Chicago. A little bit about UChicago. It's a private, medium-sized research university located on the south side of the city of Chicago. We have a little over 7,500 undergraduate students at UChicago, and a little under 10,000 graduate students, making for a grand total of campus of 17,000 students. Some of our more popular majors on campus are English, Global Studies, Econ, and Biological Sciences, but we do have over 50 majors and 50 minors, or over 50 majors and minors, I should say, for students to choose from. In terms of financial aid, we do meet full demonstrated financial need through need-based institutional grants, and we don't include loans on the financial aid package. But on top of that, we also do offer merit-based scholarships as well. There's not a separate application for merit-based scholarships. We automatically review you for merit-based scholarships within our contextual admissions review process, but we typically award merit-based scholarships based on achievements in academics, service, and leadership. And we even have certain scholarships based on certain criteria. So for example, we have our police and fire scholarship, which is specifically for anyone who is admitted, is considered for that scholarship, who is the child of a police officer or a firefighter. And we also have scholarships like our CPS Educators Award for anyone who is the child of a CPS teacher or a staff member that's not at central office, of course. So there's definitely a lot to see and a lot to explore at UChicago, and I encourage you all to set up a visit sometime to us soon. We can visit anytime Monday through Saturday. And we have visits twice a day, once in the morning and once in the afternoon. So with that, I will pass it over to the man, myth, and legend known as Brian Hodges.
Thank you for that, Juwan. That introduction kind of caught me off guard there. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Hodges. I am a Senior Associate Director for Recruitment and Outreach within the Office of Admissions at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. I will assume a lot of you know about the University of Illinois. Talk about our size. We're total about 53,000 students. That includes undergraduate and graduate students. The undergraduate population is a little over 33,000 students, represented by all 50 states and over 100 different countries. So we are pretty diverse within the University of Illinois. We are located in the Champaign-Urbana area. We're about 2 to 2.5 hours south of the Chicagoland area, depending on how fast you drive down I-57. So we do have we're a pretty decent sized campus, big campus. As far as our cost is concerned, it does range. We have different tuition for in-state students. It ranges between $31,000 to about $34,000, and it's based on the program you're admitted into. Housing is included in that particular cost. Tuition is locked for all 4 years, depending on the program you're going into, and if you stay in that particular program. As far as the majors are concerned, we have over 150 on our campus, and they're represented within 11 different academic units. The popular majors fall within our Granger College of Engineering, our Geese College of Business, and our Liberal Arts and Science College. Computer science is probably the most popular one. Most students know that. Psychology, political science, they also fall into that popular major as well. Biology, chemical engineering, aeronautical engineering all fall into that very popular list of programs. As far as our merit-based awards, the application and seconds as the application for merit-based awards, we are pretty competitive. So I will be honest about that, but there's no additional application when it comes to the merit-based awards. Your application doubles as your merit-based award application for campus-wide programs and academic unit specific scholarships that are available. One thing I will tout is our Prospective Illini Fest program that is happening on Saturday, September 21st, is our campus-wide program that we started last year, and we want to showcase how big we are, but also how small we can get pretty soon with our students and the vast interests that they might be interested in our campus. So thank you for your time, and I will now introduce another person that's a pretty awesome individual for academic when it comes to higher education, Julie Nelson.
Well, thank you, Brian. You can tell it's a love fest. I always feel like that's one of the secrets of college admissions. We all know each other pretty well, and it's not this like horrible competition. Clearly I'm not gonna, take any of my colleagues to task on like, oh my God, you stole the kid that I really wanted. It's really all about finding the right fit for the student. So glad to be on the panel with my pals, and glad to be a Batavia mom, representing the Bulldogs as well as Xavier University. My daughter Charlotte is a junior at Batavia. So if any of you are going to go see some swing singers performances this year, go see Charlotte. So I'm Julie Nelson. I'm the Assistant Dean of Admission for Xavier University in Cincinnati, Ohio. And as you may have surmised, I'm based here in the Batavia area. We get about 10% of our student body from the Chicago area. So it just makes more sense for me to be here than to be traveling back and forth. Xavier is one of the 27 Jesuit Catholic schools in the country. We are considered a medium-sized institution, so about 5,000 students. But I would say of those 5,000, about 60% come from out of state. So I always tell students, you're going to have friends from California and Connecticut and Chicago and Cincinnati and everywhere in between. And I think that adds a lot to the experience in the classroom, because our average class is just about 20 students. So you are learning not only from your professors, but from the experiences of your fellow students. Our campus is in the city of Cincinnati, but we're about 10 minutes from the heart of downtown. So we are tucked into an urban residential neighborhood. Our students love that too. They get that campus vibe that everybody's after. But when it's time to eat something delicious or get an internship or go see Joe Burrow, it's all a hop, skip, and a jump from campus. Academically, we're probably best known for our direct entry College of Nursing. For our Williams College of Business, 4 of those programs are ranked in the top 50 nationally, including marketing and finance. Really strong preparation for medical school. Most of our students who are aspiring physicians are going to do a biomedical sciences major, but there are lots of options in the biology and chemistry area, including a couple of new majors in microbiology and genetics, and in neuroscience. So we are also really excited to say that in 2027, we will welcome our first class of doctors, prospective doctors, to our College of Medicine. And so that will be opening in a few years. Also really cool programs and things like sports management, in film, in musical theater. So about 90 majors, a little bit of everything for everybody. As we are a private school, sometimes that frightens people away when you say, oh my gosh, let me look at this price tag. Our total cost is about $65,000, but our merit scholarships, like a lot of my colleagues, are automatically awarded at the time of admission. Your common application is your application for scholarships, and those range anywhere from $23,000 to about $30,000. So for most students, once they get that merit scholarship and any kind of additional institutional or other forms of financial aid, which we'll talk about later, most families are paying something that starts with a 2, not with a 6. So bringing it back down to be very comparable with other institutions. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Alec, and we will finish these introductions and get to the meat and potatoes of the presentation. So Alec, take it away.
Thanks, Julie. Hi, everyone. My name is Alec Mushong. I am an admissions advisor with Waubonsee Community College. And for anybody who joins us from Batavia High School, I'm the admissions advisor that you would work directly with in assisting you in getting started at the college. Waubonsee has just over 11,800 credit-bearing students. So usually a few more than people usually realize being a community college. We do have 4 different locations, but our primary campus is in Sugar Grove, Illinois, just about 15 minutes from Batavia High School, 15-20 minutes away, not too far. But we do have 3 other campuses, 2 in Aurora, 1 downtown Aurora, and our Aurora Fox Valley campus, which is over near the Rush Copley Center in Aurora. And then our final one being out in Plano. Our most common different majors that we offer at the college. So Waubonsee has 2 main different types of programs. We have what we refer to as career-based programs and transfer-based programs. So career programs being different programs to get you right into your career that you are interested in getting into. And our most common majors for those are going to be nursing for our RN program and automotive technology for students interested in becoming mechanics and working on cars and vehicles. Our other types of programs are going to be be transfer-based programs. And for that, our most common majors that students will choose to get started on a transfer pathway for are going to be things like business, psychology, criminal justice, nursing, general science, and biology. So those are our most common different types of majors. Cost of classes at Waubonsee. So we bill on a per credit hour basis, which means that based on however many credit hours you enroll in, that's how much the cost of your tuition is going to be. So for a student that takes a 15 credit hour semester, which is about 5 classes, it means that each semester shakes out to just under $2,200, $2,200. So the average year at Waubonsee costs about $4,400 per academic year. Waubonsee is not on the Common Application, so in order to apply, you do have to go to our website, waubonsee.edu, and fill out our free application there. Takes about 10 minutes, and it is non-obligation if you're hunting around for different colleges and universities. But the main benefit to getting your application taken care of is that you can then go ahead and apply for Waubonsee's scholarships through our foundation scholarship. And the application opens for that on November 1st with primary deadlines in February and February and May of each year for the fall before you'll be attending. So once you have that application in, then you can go ahead and begin applying for scholarships at the college. And that's a little bit about me and Waubonsee.
Yes, thank you all. So we are going to kind of start here at the beginning of the college search process. So Brian, could you tell us a little bit, like, what do you think is the first step for students and families to know about how to find colleges and start their research process?
I would say that the first step will be to go to one of our websites. And that's probably where we put a lot of information about our institution. Some schools might be easier to navigate than others when it comes to those websites. So I totally understand that. But I would say start with the website. We put a lot of our information about the programs that we offer, visit days, the application process. A lot of information is on the website. So if you have any questions about those schools you're interested in, go on the website and do a deep dive. Now, I know a lot of students nowadays are looking at 10, maybe 20 schools. If you're looking at 20 schools, you need to be jumping on 20 different websites and doing a deep dive on every single one of those different websites. Once you've done your research on those particular institutions, and there are some questions that you do have, that's when you reach out to the admissions offices at those schools. So they're going to be able to communicate with you in a variety of different ways. If it's by email, if it's by text messaging, if it's by calling those institutions, that is when you start reaching out and asking those questions. We all work in the admissions office in a variety of different ways, and we want you to reach out to us when those questions come up that you can't answer. If you go to a website and you get lost in our website, call us and reach out to us. Our jobs are to help you navigate our institutions, navigate all the information that we're providing for you, making sure you're putting your best foot forward and give you all the information you need to make a decision, the best decision for you as far as which institutions you want to go to. So yeah, definitely go to the website, do a deep dive, then reach out to us in every way that makes you feel comfortable. I'm old school. I want you to call me and I'm going to talk to you. But if you're not a person that wants to call, email us, send us a text message, meet us on social media. We are available to talk to you in a variety of different ways. Make sure you're getting the information that you need.
I love that. That is a super important part of this process. And Juan, how does a student know, like, even before they look at your website or whatnot, like, how do they know what is a good fit? What are some tips you have?
Yeah, so when you're thinking about college fit for each and every student is an individual process, just because it's a fit for you, not your friend, not your girlfriend or boyfriend, but specifically what you need out of your college experience, and what you need to meet both your personal needs and your personal interests as well. Now, when you're thinking about college fit, you really think about like 3 broader buckets or categories, of college fit. So there's academic fit, there's social fit, and there's financial fit. So when it comes to academic fit, that's when you think about majors. And I know we're going to talk about that in just a little bit about, does a college have my major, but also thinking about what kind of learning environment that you want to be in. And I think the other beauty of college is that it is a choose your own adventure kind of experience. And so you really get to, make some choices and really get to do your research, look at those websites, reach out to the admissions counselors and think about what kind of learning environment you want to be in for that academic fit, whether that's around class size, student teacher ratio, what kinds of supports you may need on campus, whether that's tutoring, how accessible are your professors, say even if you have a 504 plan right now in high school, is there an Office of Disability Services that can, kind of mirror some of those academic supports that you've been getting? even thinking about what kinds of experiential learning opportunities there are, whether that's undergraduate research, internship, and career services, and how they're going to guide you in terms of like, once you get that degree, what comes next after that? Because of course, part of the whole point of this college thing is to, get a job after you graduate from college, or at least that is what each and every parent would want for you after you finish college. So there's the academic side, and then of course there's the social side. Because college isn't just the academics. You want to feel comfortable in your environment and have a sense of community. And so with the social fit, you want to pay attention to different extracurriculars they have on campus, what kinds of supports they have on campus within that as well, whether that's, do they have a wellness center, a mental health center on campus? Are there different departments or centers that support your various identities, whether that's first generation supports, whether that's a multicultural center or something else along those lines. So, and just thinking about campus culture and the overall vibe of the campus. And so when you're thinking about the vibe, you also want to keep in mind that sometimes you can't always glean that from a website. Like sometimes on websites and brochures, the sun's always shining, the grass is always green. It's never snowing in Midwest, colleges or anything like that. Of course, at U Chicago, it never snows, like ever in Chicago. But unless it's Christmas time and we're sending you a card, then we'll have a nice little blanketed, view of snow. But one of the most important ways to kind of get a feel for that social fit is to physically visit campuses as well. And I'm a firm believer that visiting campuses is an important step in the college process, because you really have to kind of step on campus, see how the students interact, see how they, how they look going to class, even who looks happy, who looks sad, walking to their next class. And so you can really only do that by physically visiting the campus. And the last part is the financial fit. And we'll talk about finances in just a bit, but in the broader sense, can you afford to go there? And so really accounting for both costs and for financial aid opportunities as well. So definitely make sure that when you're researching colleges that you're keeping those thoughts about fit, even if you just remember those three buckets of academic, social, and financial as you're looking through those websites. I think that's a good rule of thumb to at least get you started on making sense of like, what do I need out of my college environment?
Excellent suggestions. Thank you both. Some families are asking, what is Naviance and how is it used? And so I just thought I would answer that question. So our Naviance is our high school's college and career platform. Me and the school counselors, we push into each grade level, beginning with freshmen, and they do a career exploration inventory, and it gives them ideas of careers that might be a good fit for them based on career clusters or career fields. And everything that they do on Naviance is saved. So it kind of like we build on it, beginning with just like, what am I interested in career-wise? Sophomore year, we push in and do a different career interest inventory. It's similar, but a little bit different. It's a little bit more about personality. And we're teaching students how to do research on careers they're interested in. And then also finding clubs, classes, and activities here at Batavia High School to help them explore their interests, either through electives, clubs, volunteering, things like that. Junior year, we do the college super match, which is taking these college fit factors that Joanne just described and identifying colleges that kind of fit what they're looking at. So we push into English classes. So some students have already done this with me this week, or our juniors might be doing it next week with some of our other counselors. So that's what Naviance is. Our seniors utilize Naviance to request letters of recommendation and or transcripts to be sent from Naviance directly to the colleges where they are applying. So we have a lot of resources to help students navigate Naviance specifically on our BHS College dashboard, which is linked to any email I've ever sent you at the bottom near my signature, so you can access that super easily. And then if you look at our website, I do have more information about Naviance, and I can send anyone who wants to know more about that more information too. Another piece to know is that parents can email me or their school counselor and just ask for a parent account, where we call it view, not do anything from your student's account. So you can see anything they've done. You can't navigate or request transcripts for them. This is really a student-led process, but you can see careers they've favorited, colleges that they're considering, and things like that. So that's just a quick overview on Naviance and how we use it at our school. Going to dive a little bit further into college fit. So Mary, do you have any suggestions for students, like what they should be looking for in a college? Any other tips here?
Yeah, so Joanne covered a lot of what we encourage students to do, the academic, the social and financial parts of it. I always say it's never too early to start looking because you're going to be applying your senior year. So looking even freshman, sophomore year, starting that process, as you've heard, through websites, but then visiting in person. Talk to current students, ask them what they like about the university, what they don't like about it. Also keeping notes, because you're going to be visiting a lot of schools. You may forget what one school offers that you liked or what you didn't like about a school. And also don't be too quick to judge a school. If you happen to go on a day that's rainy or cold, don't automatically assume that's a horrible school. So give us a little grace if the weather isn't perfect that day. And then as far as a little bit more on the academics and social, the academics, looking at a college that maybe has a couple different majors that you're interested in. I know at Purdue, half of our students change their mind. So you want to make sure that you're going to an institution that if you do change your mind, that there's another major that's of interest to you. Find out what the process is to change, how difficult it is. So you want to find that out ahead of time as well. Socially, again, looking at, do you want to go to a big school where you're going to have a lecture hall with 300 students, or do you want to go to a school where there's only 20 students in a class? Is sports a big deal to you? Division I sports, school spirit, opportunities for research, internship, study abroad. I mean, I would love to go to school in California or Florida where it's sunny, but then you also want to think about traveling home for the holidays, or if you even want to come home on a quick weekend, it would be hard to do when you're that far away. And then financially, realizing that all of us, and you've heard us all talk about scholarship opportunities, the sticker price, we call it, with the tuition, room and board, realize that there are scholarship opportunities. So don't necessarily let the sticker price scare you away. Talk to all of us and let us tell you what kind of opportunities we have for financial aid and for scholarships as well. It takes a lot to stay organized and keep track of all the differences in colleges. And as you heard, we are all here to help you. We're not trying to sell our school. We truly want you to find the best fit for you. So just talking to us, asking us questions, we're happy to help you.
Thanks, Mary. Brian, do you have any suggestions, like if a student does have a major in mind, like how they find a college that will help prepare them for their career interests?
Well, yeah, it's very important. Like I think I stated earlier, and even Juwan about the academic fit, is start with those websites and see if there's a program that you're truly interested in, and you want to go to that particular institution. And does that institution fit what you're interested in? Bigger school, small school, close to home, far away from home? What opportunities are available for those different programs? Really think about if you're interested. Some programs have a variety of different names that might not seem that interesting, but if you really do a deep dive, have a conversation with the admissions counselor, or they direct you to that particular college, so you talk to a professor or advisor or recruiter in that particular college, they might be able to give you a little more nuances about what that program offers. We used to offer a program called Metropolitan Food and Resource Services. I'm not exactly sure what that program is, but I have to direct you to the advisor at that program. And actually, it doesn't even exist anymore. But I say that to say, if you see something that truly interests you, make sure you're reaching out to that particular institution. Make sure they're pointing you in the right direction so you can talk to a professor or advisor in that program so they can kind of explain exactly what they offer. You might be surprised what you might hear talking to a certain advisor or professor or that particular institution about the program that's available to you. So I would say if you are interested in one or two or even three programs, make sure the institution has those programs you're interested in, because there's a good chance you might change your major. About 50% of students actually change their major once they get into a university. So you're not really stuck in one particular program. So if you have a few interests, make sure you're having a conversation with those particular institutions, and the institution has the programs you're interested in, because you might change your program and you're finding out that maybe it's not the right academic fit, or it might be the right social fit, but you might be missing a few programs here. So it's truly important to reach out to those institutions, scour those websites, have conversations with those particular institutions so you know exactly what you're getting into even before you're going through the application process. Or you might not even know until after you're admitted to the institution that you might be thinking about other things that spark your interest as far as your particular fit for that school. So use us as resources. I'll probably go back to this a few times, that you need to use us, use admissions offices, use those people in those offices as resources so you make the best decision for yourself.
I think that's great. And I want to reiterate something that Brian said is, it's more than just like what the college major is to find like your right college fit. I think sometimes I get students who ask like, well, I want to study, engineering. Where should I go? And it's like, well, like there's so much more to like just finding a school that's good for engineering. We want to find like a college that's in a place that's a good fit for you. That it's in a size institution that's going to help you learn best and things like that. And which I think leads nicely to talking about campus visits and college fairs, because until you do those campus visits or start them, you might not know what the right fit is for you. So we're going to talk about that next. So Julie, as there are many college fairs coming up here in the month of October, and we're going to talk about those. I have that on our college and career calendar, so that families can find that. And I was going to talk about that a little bit more later. But as families approach college fairs, how do they get the most out of it? And then also, Julie, what age groups do you think should be going to college fairs?
Yeah, so there are a couple of college fairs that are really close to us. So we're very lucky here. You can go to the college fair at Waubonsee, you can go to the college fair at Elgin, and really get to know us, the folks that are going to help you be that bridge between what you know about yourself and about what you hope for your future and what our college can do to be that match, or honestly, maybe isn't that match, so that we can answer a lot of those questions that you have. Or quite frankly, if this is the first time you're going through this process, sometimes walking into that college fair, you're like, I don't even know what to ask. I don't know where to start. And it's a little intimidating. So no, even if you just, walk into the college fair and get a little deer in headlights and kind of like, oh gosh, I'm just going to walk up to the closest table and say, can you help me? My gosh, of course we will. And I always say, the biggest piece of advice I can give you is that college fairs are usually lined up alphabetically. I know that seems really basic, but you will not believe how many families, by the time they get to me, and spoiler alert, my school starts with an X, so I'm always the last table at the college fair. They'll get to my table and look around and go, oh my gosh, this was alphabetical? Yeah. So here's what I will tell you. As humans, since grade school, we've been conditioned to think you start at A. I will tell you, after standing at college fairs for millions of years, there are fairs where I don't talk to anybody for the first half hour, because everybody is, dutifully lined up at the A's, the B's, and the C's. Here's what I will tell you. When you walk into that college fair, get the list of who's going to be there, which schools are represented, and maybe highlight or circle the ones you definitely want to talk to. And then don't start at the A's. And no shade to my friends who work at Augustana and at Bradley and at Carthage. Like, they're awesome schools, but they're going to have a line for that first half hour. Go start with the U's. Go start with the P's, go start with the X, and really start to have those conversations. I think the other thing, as you approach the college fair table, I think it's a good idea to have a couple of questions in mind. So if you've done some of this research, whether it's the super match with Miss Buttles, or you've just kind of jotted down some things like, here are the pieces of fit that are really important to me, whether that's, they definitely have to have this major, or I definitely have to be able to play lacrosse or figure skate or do volunteer work, whatever is important to you, ask that question. And there's no expectation on our end as the college rep standing behind that table that you are going to come with a fully formed, very erudite academic question. If what you really want to know is, how far are you from home, and is there a Starbucks on campus, and can I major in something business? That's great, because we can start the conversation there. So know that it's a two-way street. We're not just, it's not like going to the midway at the carnival and you're going to give us $1 and we're going to let you like throw some tennis balls at stuff. Like, that's not how that works. You're definitely going to have to engage a little bit, but know that there's no questions that are off limits, and we want to have that conversation and get to know you. I think, we see all grade levels come to college fairs. I think especially as if you have juniors, this is a great time to start to get a little bit of that research going, because for a lot of juniors, and mine included, you're still trying to figure out, well, what makes a big school big and what makes a small school small, and really what's the difference? So to be able to have those conversations and see that wide variety of schools, I think helps the juniors certainly start to narrow down, okay, I feel an affinity for this size of school. Or after talking to somebody and knowing that, it's going to take a million hours to get there or 5 minutes to get there, one or the other isn't quite the right fit. So I think that's part of it too. While I think there is some value in sophomores and their parents coming to college fairs, a lot of times that's more of a shopper kind of like, I'm just going to pick up the brochures and go home and take a look at that. For the seniors and the senior parents and freshmen too, I would say this is a good time just to kind of see what's out there. But for the seniors, if you are planning on attending one of these college fairs, this is a great time to ask very specific questions about the application process, whether that's deadlines or admission, when those decisions will be released, if you have specific questions about majors. But I think honestly, by this point, getting on those campuses is almost better than going to the college fair. So if you're still looking, if you're still trying to make that list, yes, use that college fair for that. But otherwise, it is really just a time to have some conversations with some people who talk to strangers for a living. So know that we're excited to meet you and help you get this process started.
Thanks, Julie. Our next question is for Juwan. How should I show a college I'm interested, and do you track demonstrated interest? And for those who might be not familiar with that term yet, if you would give that a little light.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, when it comes to demonstrated interest, that's a way that, a way for colleges to gauge how interested a prospective student is in attending their institution is kind of the broader way. Now, for UChicago, we do not track demonstrated interest, but there are a lot of institutions who do track demonstrated interest because that may be what helps, or that may be part of what they, take into account when they're reviewing your application. It may even go into some of those admissions decisions as far as how much have you engaged with that institution to kind of indicate your level of interest in it, basically. So there's a few things you could do to both like show your interest, in that institution that also kind of double as tracking demonstrated interest, or some of the things that institutions do track. So one of them is visiting campus, of course. As visiting campus, you're going to hear that a lot today. Make sure that you're visiting campuses and attending those college fairs. Signing up for mailing lists. And so you can sign up for mailing lists in a few different ways. You can go to the website as you're doing your research. Almost every admissions website should have a place, it should be in the contact us section where you can sign up to get on the mailing list and receive emails and mailings and more information about that institution. But even when you're at those college fairs, there are some colleges at fairs that will have either some cards on the table for you to fill out to get more information, and then the admissions counselors take those back to campus to input them. Or even like there are some institutions that may at this point, because of the increases in technology, advances in technology, where they may even have like a QR code or something along those lines for you to fill out. But basically signing up for the mailing list is another way to kind of show that you're interested in the institution. And of course, reaching out to admissions counselors, which we've already talked about as well, whether it's just like kind of cold calling them, please call Brian, or email, counselors as well, is another way to kind of show interest. And the last one I have for you is also to think about pre-college programs. So not every institution has pre-college programs. For those that don't know, pre-college programs are typically programs on a college campus for high school students or even middle school students in some cases, where you get to either live on campus or, engage at that campus in some kind of way, shape, or form and kind of immerse yourself into that. And so some institutions do have, as I said, pre-college programs to apply for. And I would encourage you all to just, as you're doing your research, to see if there are any pre-college programs that you may engage with as well. Some of them are based on specific academic areas, whether that's STEM or pre-med or healthcare, but some are a little bit more broad and just, to explore the college process or to explore that campus as well. So definitely a lot of ways to really show that you're interested in an institution. And if you can't tell from some of those examples, it's a way to further help you understand whether or not that institution is a good fit for you as well.
Thanks, Joanne. We're going to next talk about college applications. So Brian, what are some different admissions requirements that students should pay attention to? And then, is earlier always better?
This is a great question, and I might go down a rabbit hole here. It's really important. I keep talking about you should be reaching out to the institutions you're interested in. This is probably one of the most important times you need to reach out to these institutions. Holistic review is a phrase that most institutions will use. I know for University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, we do have a holistic review process. We look at your grades, we look at your course rigors, so that could be advanced placement classes, international baccalaureate classes, dual credit classes. We look at your extracurricular activities, we look at your essays. We look at all those different things. Some schools say they look at all those things. They really look at your grades, or they really look at your GPA, or they really pay attention to what your essay looks like. It depends on the institution. So it's really important you're reaching out to all these institutions and then having this conversation either by phone or by email or by text and kind of get a clear answer on what these institutions are looking for. Um, excuse me, I work for the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. There are two other institutions within the University of Illinois system, Chicago and Springfield. Outside of having the same color blue, we have three different ways that we review applications. We have three different lists of majors. We have three different application processes. We might be all on Common App, but we're going to review you in a variety of different ways. You need to have a conversation with all three of our campuses, and we're all within the University of Illinois system. Unfortunately, we do not make it easy for students. And I mean, most students can apply on the Common App. There's always that next step, depending on the institution, that you have to go through to complete their application or just to pay attention to. So you're not missing out on any important deadlines or whatever the next step is for that review process. So it's really important you're having that conversation with those institutions about what their processes are like and what they truly look at as far as a review is concerned. It also depends on the timeline or what the application dates are for the institution. We have an early action deadline November 1st. It doesn't matter if you apply September 1st or August 30th. If you apply and get that information by the time you're considered an early action student. If you apply during that time frame, you're going to get a decision. And I think January 26th is the early action decision release date. Doesn't matter when you apply during that window of early action, you're going to get your decision the same way. I would encourage everyone to apply early and get it over with. There's no point of waiting until the last minute, but I say that in 85% of our applications come on October 30th. So I'm saying that tongue in cheek, knowing it's not going to happen, but for most of the institutions that actually have a, say, early action deadline, there's no reason to wait. Just get the application in, and you do not have to worry about it moving forward. But I'm gonna say that, and we'll see. We'll see what happens with the process. But kind of reiterate, it's important to have these conversations with the institutions you're interested in, just to make sure you're doing everything you can to make sure you're putting your best foot forward. And if you're applying to 20 schools, you need to have 20 different conversations with these schools.
And to go off that just a tiny bit, the only reason I would say is to wait until our senior college boot camp where you get your essay reviewed. But that is a very specific Batavia suggestion, this is Batavia College Night. So I just thought I should say that. Our next question for Alec: how do colleges review Batavia High School's weighted GPAs, and do they recalculate to be unweighted for admissions and or for scholarships?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Paige. So, as Brian was mentioning a moment ago, I think, and really this is something that you're going to hear from all of us here tonight. And it's not in an effort to dodge a question or anything like that, but really you do need to be having these conversations with the colleges and universities that you're looking at, just because everybody reviews so differently. Some institutions are going to be looking at a weighted GPA. Some will be looking at unweighted GPA. Some are going to be looking specifically at your grades that you received in classes, and reviewing those grades specifically. So it really is going to be so different from school to school. So it really is important to make sure that you're speaking with the admissions representative or recruiter that you're working with, or whoever, talking to somebody at the admissions office at the university or colleges that you're interested in to check in with them. I can go ahead and speak specifically to Waubonsee that we have an open enrollment admissions policy, which means that we're not looking at GPAs for purposes of admission, but for different things like course placement and scholarships, we're looking at an unweighted GPA. So specifically for our purposes, we do unweight a student's GPA for things along those lines. I'm not sure if anybody from any of the other universities wants to chime in with anything additional, but that's just something to keep in mind when it comes to GPA.
I could jump in about GPA. I know for Urbana-Champaign, we don't look at the GPA. We look at grades specifically. And you want to see how well you've done as far as the grades you received in your course and what your school offers as far as a grading scale. We were joking earlier about this. We look at grades 8 A through F or things like that. C's are C's. So if it's a AP class you got a C in, it's a C. So we want to see you do well in all the courses that you're taking. If you're taking that rigorous coursework, we want to see A's and B's in that coursework. So just because you received a higher grade in a higher rigor course, or I'm sorry, a lower grade in a higher rigor course, it's still a lower grade. And that is different for every institution. So that's why it's important to have that conversation with those institutions and how they're going to review, because some schools might look at a C in an AP class and be okay with it, and some schools might not. So it's very important to continue those conversations about how a institution reviews those courses and grades.
I appreciate that perspective. I think sometimes our students are comparing their weighted grade point averages to like the middle 50% of average accepted students. So just being mindful how that might line up. And then, like we've said several times, like following up with the college to see like what that means for them exactly. Thank you. And Juwan, if people aren't familiar with the University of Chicago being a very selective institution, I think this is a good question for you to share, like beyond good grades, what are other things students can do to stand out?
Yeah, and similar to what Brian said about U of I, for University of Chicago, we also do a holistic contextual review, right? Like, and every institution does some form of a holistic review. And so when you think about your application, yes, the grades are important. Not saying the grades are not important, right? But every single institution can fill their entire class with like highly academically talented students. It's all the other stuff that gets us excited about you being a community member of campus. And that's the other thing to keep in mind. I know one of the questions that I constantly ask myself when I'm reviewing applications is to think about, yes, can the student handle the work academically, but would this student be a good community member, right? Like, would they be a good roommate? Would they be a good member of a student organization on campus? Would they just be a friendly person when Batavia High School visits U Chicago? Would they be the type of person that would just stop and say hi and wave at the students, right? And so when you think about your application, you don't want to just think about your transcript and your application. Bear with me if you've heard this analogy before, but it's kind of like a pizza, right? Like, and your academics, your grades and whatnot, like that's like the cheese. That is the base level. Like, we're going to acknowledge that is the foundation of it. But everything else are like the toppings, and every institution, similar to people, everyone prefers a different topping or may, prioritize one topping or over another. But it's all the toppings that typically are getting us excited about your application. And so when you're thinking about your application beyond those grades, you want to think about like the other elements of it and make sure that those elements are just as strong as those grades are. And so whether it's extracurriculars and making sure that you're listing, yes, everything you're involved in within your school setting, but also anything you're involved in outside of your school as well. So if you volunteer at your church, if you babysit your younger siblings, anything like that, if you're in like Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, if you're in Girl Scouts, let me know when the cookies go on sale. I always miss it. But either way, like, you really want to think about your extracurriculars and what you're involved in and how you can really emphasize that. And when it comes to extracurriculars, keep in mind that oftentimes we're not looking for a specific activity or a leadership title. We just want to see what kind of meaningful involvement you've had during your high school years outside of the classroom. Essays are another major way to stand out. Students, you want to keep in mind that when you're writing, colleges are not having you write essays during your senior year just for an additional English assignment, but that is really how we get to know you in your own words. And so when you're writing those essays, it's very important that, you get someone to proof those essays to make sure that they're grammatically accurate and say everything that you want them to say, but also making sure, say with your personal statement, and your personal statement is your essay that you're basically going to send to most, if not all, of the colleges that you're planning to apply to. And so with that personal statement, making sure that you are the main character of that personal statement. And what I mean by that is that it's very easy when you're writing that personal statement, especially if you're outlining a specific experience that you had. It's very easy to get so wrapped up in describing the experience itself that we as the reader don't get to learn a lot about you. Oftentimes I get to learn a lot about your relative or your coach or your team, but I didn't necessarily learn a lot about you as a person and your internal world based in this situation and that experience. And so make sure that you're really taking those essays serious. Make sure that you're starting your essays early as well. keep in mind that I don't care how much of a genius you feel you are in English and writing essays and whatnot, it's still going to take a little bit of review. It still may take a few different tries before it gets to the polished essay that you're ready to submit. So make sure that you're not waiting until October 30th for that November 1st deadline to start writing your essays. The last thing I think is another great way to stand out, on top of everything else that we've also mentioned about, demonstrated interest in visiting and reaching out to counselors, whatnot, is also like your letters of recommendation. Make sure that you're requesting those letters of recommendation and asking your teachers to write you a glowing, emphasis on glowing, letter of recommendation, because your teachers can be pretty honest about your performance in the classroom. And so for those of you, especially for my 9th through 11th graders right now, this is my PSA to say, like, make sure that you have at least a few teachers on your side by senior year. Make sure that every teacher you've ever encountered is not a part of your villain origin story, and that they can and are willing to say nice things about you as well. So, because that's what helps you stand out, is that student that teachers can say, this was an amazing student. They showed up, they were engaging, they helped others in the classroom setting, or whatever the case may be. So you really want to think about how to stand out in terms of your application and other parts. And it's really important before you go into the application to really do a little bit of thought, or take a little bit of time to kind of think about, like, what characteristics, what experiences, what elements of myself do I really want to emphasize within my application, and where can I emphasize that in different parts of the application as well.
That was great. Thanks so much. I'm just going to, again, put a little Batavia spin on that, is that we do host Julie, and we have a recording of her and two of her friends talking about how to write your college essay. And so for our seniors, if you haven't watched that yet, I've posted that in a couple different places, but that is a great starting point. And then again, Senior College Boot Camp, we have a friend of Juwan's from the University of Chicago coming to present on how to write your college essay. So that would be a don't miss event. And then for our younger students, just know that we will support you through writing your college essay as you approach senior year. So a few other questions. When looking at weighted classes such as AP Honors and dual credit, is there an advantage to one over the other? So Juwan, back to you.
Yeah, and overall, all of these are great options to have under your belt, especially to have on your transcript for your college application, because the overall importance of AP, honors, dual credit, IB even, is that institutions want to see that you've challenged yourself academically within the context of what's offered at your high school. We just want to see that you've challenged yourself beyond the base level coursework that's offered. And so at a base level, like, taking any of these are definitely beneficial in the college process, because it shows us a certain level of you being ready for, the college academic side of things, because you already know, like, how to kind of take on more rigorous coursework. Of course, one of the benefits of AP and dual credit coursework and IB coursework is the fact that there are opportunities to get college credit. And of course, when you're receiving college credit, that's one less class that you have to take during your college career. And oftentimes, if you have enough college credit coming in or enough credit transfers over, I know some students that have been able to come in their first year and already had, like, sophomore standing or second year standing because of the amounts of credits that they had. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is that not every institution is different, and every institution will take a different kind of credit. The one thing to keep in mind is that, say, for example, with dual credit, while a lot of in-state institutions may take dual credit that's offered in the state of Illinois, out-of-state institutions, it gets a little bit more dicey, a little bit more questionable of whether or not some of those credits will transfer. Whereas with, like, AP and IB credits, if you sat for those exams are standardized on a national and international curriculum. And so, more institutions, both in-state and out-of-state, will take AP credits or IB credits, whereas not every institution will take dual enrollment credit as well. And the other thing to keep in mind when it comes to, dual enrollment and whatnot is also, or with AP, I should say, and IB, is to actually, I encourage you all to sit for those exams as well. Like, yes, you can get the credit, you can get the grade, and it'll boost your GPA and all that other good stuff. But as you've heard, in this panel today, even if you get that GPA boost, some of us are not even looking at the GPA, right? Like, it's the actual grade. But I think by taking that exam is how you'll be able to earn that college credit for AP coursework. So I definitely encourage you all to just take a shot and go ahead and try out that exam as well, so that you can ultimately receive that college credit that has a better chance of following you no matter where you want to go, whether it's in state or out of state as well.
Thank you. Mary, do you have any advice for students who are applying to more competitive fields like pre-med, engineering, computer science? I would also throw in some nursing and business schools being more competitive than other majors. So any insight you have?
Yeah, so the one thing I tell students is that to understand that competitive majors many times will have limited amount of seats. So we can't admit all qualified applicants. So for example, our flight program, we have 90 spots and we get about 1,000 applications. So it's not that a student did something wrong or they didn't take the right classes. We have qualified applicants. So it's a hard decision for colleges, the admission committees, to make those decisions. So if you get denied from a competitive program, realize it's not because necessarily you did something wrong. It's just we don't have enough seats for everybody. Someone touched on this a little bit about essays. So on the Common Application, we do have a statement that we want to know, why do you want to come to Purdue? So that why Purdue, especially for these competitive programs like engineering or flight or any of those that we have at Purdue, we want something specific that you know about our program. So if we're reading an application and these students are academically strong and I'm reading about why Purdue, but I could take that Purdue name out of there and put another college name in there. It's a very generic statement about, I love a big school. That necessarily is not good. So I want to know, what do you know about Purdue? Why should we admit you to Purdue? You also want to check school profiles to make sure that you are at least within their profile for those competitive programs, as far as if they're looking at a GPA range or test score range, or if you need to be calculus ready, but you only took pre-calc. So checking those things as well for those competitive programs is important. Also, applying to a variety of schools. If you're looking at profiles for these competitive programs, you don't want to apply to all the same schools with the same profiles. So trying some different profile schools, as long as it's a school that you're willing to go to. I don't encourage applying to a school that you're not going to go to. So apply to those schools that you're truly interested in attending if you get admitted. And then also the other thing is thinking about other similar majors. So for example, our computer science major is very competitive, but we also have data science and artificial intelligence. So there are other options for students that maybe those competitive programs that you can consider if you don't get into that computer science or engineering major. There's other majors at that institution that maybe will be a good fit for you as well.
Thank you. Next, we're going to talk about scholarships. Alec, could you tell us what is the best way to get financial aid and scholarships?
The best way to get financial aid. All right. I'm going to say a word, and it's maybe one you've heard before. It's FAFSA. It's not actually a word. It's an acronym, which stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And this is something that everybody not only should do, but in order to graduate from high school, you actually need to do. So applying for financial aid is so critically important because it is really how you're going to find out about different grants you're being offered on a federal and state level, and loans you're being offered as well. So it is really important that you do go ahead and complete your application. Now, as it's mentioned in the name, it is a completely free application for students to go ahead and complete. I tell students all the time, the only thing it's going to cost you is a little bit of your time. And really what it's going to go ahead and do is open up a lot of opportunities for you to go ahead and get assistance with attending schools that you're interested in the colleges and universities that you're interested in. So you'll definitely want to make sure that you're going ahead and completing your FAFSA application. If you're not eligible for the FAFSA application, definitely be sure that you're talking to your school counselors about the alternative application or RISE Act application for students to go ahead and apply for alternative application or alternative aid if you're ineligible for the FAFSA application. So definitely important to go ahead and get your FAFSA taken care of and to get it done early as well. Not only just so that you so that it's taken care of, so you don't have to worry about it, but really the the earlier the better as far as getting your FAFSA done. And then when it comes to scholarships, I know some of the other reps here today have mentioned a few different things related to scholarships. Some institutions are going to go ahead and award you scholarships alongside of your college application. So you may be receiving scholarships right off the bat when you go ahead and submit your general admissions application. So you'll want to make sure that you're speaking with the different representatives and admissions reps and recruiters that you're looking for, the schools that you're looking into, to find out how they award their scholarships, and if you are going to be considered for scholarships at the time of applying, and if so, what the process for that looks like, if there is anything additional that you need to do. But also, I believe one of the other reps mentioned earlier that sometimes outside of that initial batch of scholarships you may be eligible for at the time of application, some of the different colleges within the universities will have their own scholarships as well that you're maybe not being considered for when you're doing when you're being considered for general, maybe merit-based scholarships. So it is important to go ahead and make sure that you're talking to your recruiter or representative to find out what additional scholarships that you could be eligible for, because that initial round of scholarships may not be it. And a lot of times students may go ahead and just stop at that initial scholarship that they received, thinking, all right, that's it. That's my scholarship for the school. It's important to find out about the other scholarships. And then outside of the scholarships internally at the college or university that you're looking into, it's important to also look at external scholarships. Not too far away here near Batavia, we have, I believe it's the Community Foundation of the Fox River Valley, if I'm not mistaken. And that is an external scholarship. It's a pool of scholarships that you can go ahead and apply for, and you can use those scholarships at any of the different colleges or universities that you're hearing from today or across the country. So, I mean, you can go ahead and you can apply for some of those different scholarships to go ahead and potentially take with you to other colleges and universities. So it is important to go ahead and look into external scholarships in addition to those internal scholarships, in addition to financial aid. It really all does kind of compound to help to bring tuition costs down. So it's important to not kind of put all your financial aid eggs in one basket and just do the FAFSA or just apply for scholarships. You want to make sure that you're going ahead and applying for all of these.
Thanks, Alec. Our next question is for Julie. How will families get an idea of how much college will cost for them, and how do you find affordable colleges?
So the trick of this process, maybe it's not a trick, but just the way the college application and selection process rolls out is, while you will see the sticker price right away, and we talked about sticker price earlier, you will not know exactly what your out-of-pocket cost is until after your student has been admitted to the school and after that school has created the financial aid package for that student. So there is some guessing game to it, but there's a way to kind of break it down and to absolutely get a better sense of what does this school truly look like out of pocket for me. So there's two places you can go. One would be the net price calculator for that institution. And the easiest way, every school that receives federal financial aid funds has to, by law, have a net price calculator somewhere on their website. The easiest way to find those is simply to go to your favorite internet search engine and type in the name of the school and net price calculator. It will pop up. Net price calculators come in two flavors. One would simply be kind of a scholarship calculator, so that you would punch in your students' academic information, whether that's just a GPA or a GPA and a test score. Again, every school does it a little bit different. So you could kind of determine what kind of merit scholarship that student would qualify for. You can go a step further with the net price calculator, and this is that second flavor, where it will ask a few questions about your family's financial situation to kind of determine if you would also be eligible for resource-based assistance from either the school itself, from the state government, from the federal government. So you can really see pretty quickly early on, what would this school truly cost us as a family based on our specific situation. Another really good place to research is a site called College Navigator. And College Navigator is it's a U.S. government run site. It's from the National Center for Education Statistics. And you can search any school in the country and it gives you a lot of data. So if you're trying to, kind of compare apples to apples, as you narrow down the list of schools you're considering, College Navigator is a great place. Every school has an entire list of the same criteria that you can dig into. The one I would point you to, the tag on that tab is called net price. And what net price will do is show you kind of in income bands. If you are a family that your adjusted gross income is this is about what a family in your situation would pay. So if you don't want to jump into the net price calculator, you just want to get a little bit of intel, College Navigator is a great place to do that. If you want to take it one step further, all of those College Navigator tabs or those pages for each institution do link back to the school's net price calculator. So that's a great way. But I think when you're looking at the question of value, you also want to bring into this, again, we're gonna keep talking about fit tonight, but I think it's so important because you can certainly find colleges that don't cost very much, and that might be the best fit, but you also want to look at what are you getting for what you are paying. And I, have certainly talked with lots of families where Xavier was absolutely the right place for them. I've also talked to families who, when they showed me all of their options, I'm like, Xavier's not the right place for you. When it comes down to it, this is what you're going to be paying out of pocket for student loans after you graduate. The balance just isn't there. And so I think that's really crucial too, is not to always look for the price tag that's the smallest, but the one that fits in your budget and also kind of correlates with all of those things that your student is looking for and that you're looking for your student. There's got to be that balance too.
Thanks, Julie. It's just a little other thoughts on how to find and apply for scholarships. We're hosting an All About Scholarships presentation during Late Start on October 24th, and we haven't shared that super widely yet. That is on our calendar, but more information to come. But generally speaking, I would say at a glance, our other friends have said, looking at the colleges where you're applying to see what scholarships they have and how they award scholarships. Number 2 is completing the FAFSA. Number 3 is applying for local scholarships, which we have a Google Doc of all of our local scholarships, most of which are posted in the winter months. So I would say at first you apply to college for the first couple months of senior year, and then the next couple months are financial aid related, where you complete the FAFSA as well as apply for local scholarships. And then after that, you get to hear back from colleges, and then you also get to see what scholarships you received. And then that's when you make your decision, typically, which college you will attend. And I would say last in the prioritization is the national scholarship search engines, which if you Googled scholarships for high school students, there are lots of real websites where you should never pay for a scholarship to apply for it, but you can create a profile and it'll give you ideas of scholarships that you might be eligible for if you want to apply. They're typically more competitive. Just the other day, Coca-Cola emailed me that they had a $25,000 scholarship, but again, students from all over the United States could apply for that. So I'm not discouraging it, but we usually prioritize that last in the sequence. And then just, if you aren't aware, almost all scholarships are for high school seniors. Occasionally I see ones for younger students that are usually those national scholarships, but that's just kind of at a glance how to prioritize your scholarship search. Next, we're going to talk about colleges that are test optional. So Julie, could you tell us, how do I know if a college is test optional? And if you could also define that for people who maybe are not yet familiar with that term.
Sure. So test optional has been around for a really long time. I think a lot of people look at this as still kind of the gut punch reaction to the COVID pandemic, when all of a sudden the testing sites, had to be closed because we had to stay 6 feet away from everybody. And so a lot of schools went away from requiring an ACT or an SAT as part of their review process. But even before the pandemic, there was a pretty growing list of schools, even as far back as the 70s, of schools that said, really, as we do these holistic reviews or these, these deeper dives into who the student is and not just what the GPA is, we don't know that the test score is telling us anything that we didn't already know about the student. So that said, there are a lot of schools, Mary's included. Purdue has come back and said, no, we would love your test score. So I would say the biggest thing is, as you have these conversations, as you're doing your research, ask the admission reps themselves, what that means at their school, because some schools, I'll use Mizzou as an example. Mizzou is test optional for admission, but not test optional for scholarships. So there's some nuance to that as well. If you want a quicker way than making those 20 phone calls, Brian Hodges included, what you can do, there's a website called fairtest.org, and I'll put that in the chat so everybody's got it, but it's fair like the state fair, test like a test.org. And that will show you the testing status of pretty much every school you might be considering. So it will show if a school is test optional, if a school is requiring a test. It will even show schools that are test blind. So if you're thinking about applying to Bradley, let's say you took that SAT in the spring and you selected Bradley as one of the schools you wanted your test score sent to. But then when it came to actually applying, you thought, I don't really want to send my test score. Even though Bradley's got it on file somewhere, they will not use it in the admission process. So they're blind to it. So there's a lot of nuance. Absolutely ask the question and we can help you, but fairtest.org, and I'll pop it in the chat, is the best place to go for up-to-date information.
Thanks, Julie. And to Brian, kids ask me this all the time, like, well, it says they're test optional. Is it really? Should I send it? Shouldn't I send it? How do I know if it's test optional for admissions versus scholarships? Sometimes it's on their website, sometimes it's not. So what are your thoughts, or what advice do you have for our students?
I almost feel this is directed at me or my institution, but it's okay. It's okay. We can work it out. Well, I know for Illinois Urbana-Champaign, we are truly test optional. If the test score is submitted with the application, we will use it for all the things: application review. We'll use it for placement in classes, things like that. If the test score is not included in the application, we have a whole lot of other things we can use in the application to review that student and to put them in certain situations once they've been admitted, and put them in the classes they need to be put in. So for University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, it is truly a we're a test optional institution. Now, some schools, like Julie was kind of talking about, they might be test optional to a degree. Well, like if you don't submit the test score in the application, but we might need it for placement, for math, or for English courses. It will depend on the institution. And it is where you do have to reach out to those schools and find out. If you look at the website that Julie was talking about, that could be helpful. In some situations, you might have to reach out to those schools and find out for sure what they're going to use the test score for or not. But some institutions are truly test optional, where if it's there, great. If it's not, great. We can look at it either way. But that's the nuance of the test optional, unfortunately, that you might have to reach out to some of these institutions and find out for sure if you need to submit a test or not. If it's through the application process, or if it's when you've been admitted and decide to come to that campus, do you still need to submit a test score? It really depends on the institution.
Thanks, Brian. And you're right, that was directed at you. I'm just being honest. I had to ask him some questions earlier today when we pre-met for this meeting, because I had a hard time keeping stuff straight. So anywho, okay, next, talking a little bit more about financial aid and paying for college. So Julie, give us a bird's eye view on how do we pay for financial aid, or how does financial aid pay for college? Tell us a little bit.
Yep. So this is absolutely a bird's eye view. There's, again, a lot of nuance, but here are the basic steps. So as Alec mentioned before, you will want to complete the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. There was a great question in the chat last year. The new and improved FAFSA rolled out, and it less rolled than bumped down the road. It was not a smooth rollout at all. But all of the information we have from the Department of Ed says that this year's FAFSA will open on December 1st. So there is going to be sort of a soft rollout in October, but there's no guidance yet on how that is going to happen. So right now, mark your calendars, December 1. Once you complete that FAFSA, what that document actually does is kind of determines your family's ability to pay for college. So the FAFSA is not a scholarship form. The FAFSA is not, you're not going to get money from FAFSA. Basically, it's just you answer some very easy questions, as well as give the FAFSA or the Department of Education the ability to pull your tax information from the IRS. As someone who's completed FAFSAs recently, both the older version and this last version, it took me all of like 15 minutes. Like, if the hardest part was remembering where I kept my kid's social security number, honestly. So the form itself is not difficult. You only have to fill the form out once. Online, when you fill out that form, you can list up to 20 different schools. So remember, I told you, you're not going to get those financial aid packages until after your student has been admitted. So you may not know on December 1st if your student has been admitted to all of the colleges to which they have applied. So, list all of the schools where they've applied, and that way that information then gets sent to the school. Once the school gets that information, each school's got its own methodology, each school's got its own, philosophy, each school has its own priorities and its own budget. So from the information that's gleaned from the FAFSA, then that school will put together a package of financial assistance. And that can really, there's a lot of different components. Certainly, we've talked about merit scholarships. So those are scholarships that are not determined by your family's financial situation. They're really determined by your students' success in school and how that aligns with that institution's academic qualifications, right? So you've got the merit scholarship. That's free money that you don't have to pay back. The next thing schools will often add into those awards are institutional grants. So again, free money from the institution to say, hey, we really like you. We would love for you to be here. Here's some additional free money. If your student is staying in Illinois and, whether they're going to a community college, whether they're going to a public school or a private school, you may also qualify for the MAP grant or the Monetary Award Program grant. And this, again, is based on your family's financial situation, but this can be a nice incentive to staying in state. So that might be the next thing that gets added into the package. After that, we're looking at kind of the federal money. So for families who show the greatest financial need, and really, I'm going to give you the definition here. Financial need is not, hey, we need money to go to college. We all need money to go to college. But financial need is, what is the total cost of the college minus your ability to pay as determined by the FAFSA, and then what's left over. So if a family is showing great financial need, they may qualify for a Pell Grant, which is free money from the government, from the federal government. And then every student who is applying for the FAFSA has the ability to borrow through the direct loan program. And that's for all students, no matter what the cost of the college is. The most that a freshman can borrow is $5,500. There was just a question that says in the chat that asked if we recommend applying junior or senior year. The FAFSA is only for seniors. You will do that December 1st of your student's senior year. So if you're a junior family or a sophomore family or a freshman family, know that you've got some time, and hopefully all the bugs will be worked out for the class of 2026 and farther. But for my class of 2025, you will have that opportunity beginning December 1st. So just so you know, that's kind of financial aid in a really very small nutshell, but that gives you an idea of how that process works.
Like we kind of talked about a little bit when we were talking about FAFSA and scholarships, and as Julie was mentioning with those scholarships, financial aid, institutional-based grants, loans, all of those kinds of things. You want to make sure that you're putting time into seeking these different sources that can help you to pay for college. So, of course, base, you want to make sure that you're going ahead and applying for financial aid. You're seeking those different merit-based scholarships at different colleges and universities that may be included in application or that you need to apply for separately. We talked a little bit about external scholarships that you would apply for outside of your university or institution that you're looking at going to. But you'll also want to go ahead and maybe look at things like 529 college savings plans that you can go ahead and utilize to help to pay for college tuition. So that's something that you can go ahead and you can look into. Also going ahead and talking to the student accounts office, cashier's office, bursar's office at the college or university to potentially talk about different payment plan options. There's all sorts of different ways that you can kind of break down your tuition to go ahead and pay for that, whether it be via loans or grants or scholarships or out of pocket. So you want to make sure that you're kind of looking into all of those different options. I know we were talking earlier, Julie, you mentioned you maybe wanted to had something else you wanted to add here. So please jump in.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so while the students can borrow up to $5,500 as freshmen, there's also a loan product that is part of the federal government's suite of options called the PLUS loan. And so that is a loan that parents can take in their names to help the student pay for school. And the PLUS loan, you could actually borrow up to the total cost of education not covered by financial aid. So we'll just throw some numbers out. Let's say the school costs $50,000. You're getting $25,000 in financial aid. You still have $25,000 to pay out of pocket. The PLUS loan could allow you to borrow that entire $25,000. I'm not a financial planner. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money, but I will say, I get a little nervous when families are like, oh, we're just going to take the PLUS loan and then, but that's freshman year. That's only 1 year. So I think for families who know, hey, we can afford this much per month, or this is what we've got budgeted for college for the year, the PLUS loan can be a way to kind of fill a little bit of a gap. But I would say, again, it's this whole value proposition of, what am I paying? What am I getting? Is that equal? Does it balance, right? And if you're, going super into debt because, Mom, I really love this school, do you have other choices that might be a better financial fit? Again, you want to balance all three of those things. So, but the PLUS loan is out there to really help families. And then certainly, and there's lots of other kinds of private loans. Those are generally, again, in parents' names because, your Discovers and your Fannie Mae's don't want to extend a loan to a student who has no credit score. So a lot of times if, you're looking beyond that, the parents or another credit-worthy co-signer is going to have to help that student acquire those loan products.
One other thing I wanted to mention as well for strategies, just going ahead and looking into opportunities as well while you're in high school for classes that you can take while in high school to transfer to colleges and universities. So I know Juwan was talking earlier about dual credit and about AP and things along those lines. So definitely going ahead and making sure that while you're in high school, if you have the opportunity to take whether it be dual credit classes or AP classes with the exam, that you go ahead and maybe take advantage of some of those, that maybe you can go ahead and transfer some of that credit with you and kind of do it at a lower cost before getting to your college or university that you intend to get started at.
A few last things before we end I wanted to show you some upcoming events for our students. So here, if you go to our website, bit.ly/BHS calendar, this is also one of the emails I've sent, any email I've ever sent really, some upcoming events for our students. Senior College Boot Camp is for our BHS seniors, Senior College Help Sessions. We have a few more coming up, including tomorrow, September 6th, and then also on October 31st, right before that early action deadline, which is commonly November 1st. Our college panels, again, bringing in 60 colleges over 6 days. Each of those events are just 1 hour long. So really a high impact way to learn about many colleges at once. You can save the date for All About Scholarships presentation. That will be during late start on October 24th. And we will share those slides with families who are unable to attend live. And then we will be hosting one career event per year, or I'm sorry, per semester. In November, we are hosting business, marketing, and finance. So if your student's interested in that, we'll bring in about 15 to 20 professionals who represent those career areas for students to learn about by talking with professionals about their careers. Some other questions that came in through the registration was about scholarship opportunities and avoiding scams. So I think I talked about that already, and to join our All About Scholarships presentation, as well as this link on our counseling and advising website that also talks about scholarships. Special needs supports, checklists, or resources. I would go to one of those 3 upcoming college fairs that are on our calendar that are in our regional area. And then also reaching out to me or Miss Blakey if you need more help. Our upcoming college fairs are also on our calendar, so I would encourage you to check out that and or the counseling and advising section of the Batavia High School website. So I want to ask about, where do most of our students end up going? I would say over the last 4 to 6 years, typically we have students going to 120 different colleges. So here's a little map that our NHS puts together of our seniors. And then the most common ones I have listed here: Waubonsee, Aurora, Illinois State, U of I, University of Iowa, Iowa State, UW-Madison, Mizzou, North Central. I'd also throw Purdue on there. And then for potential career interests, we do career exploration with freshmen and sophomores in their classrooms in English. If you have a junior or senior who's still pretty unsure, I would encourage them to set up a time to meet with me so I can help them individually. And we have contact information here for our representatives. And then, of course, if you have questions, please reach out to your school counselor or myself, and we'd be happy to help you and your student to navigate this process. So thank you all for coming out tonight, and a special thanks to our college admissions representatives for spending their evenings with us. We appreciate all of you, and have a great evening.
Do you mind if I just add one other thing? Because